Welcome to another episode of the Crypto Conversion Podcast. As usual, it's Brandon, Matt, and Connor, and I promise everybody this is the last week that I will be taking the show on the road because it's just been crazy for me from a life standpoint. But coming to you live from Lincoln, Nebraska. Gosh, I hope I survive here. I brought enough Badger gear to withstand my time, but we'll see how that goes for everybody here in the great Cornhusker State. Regardless of that, guys, how's your Friday night going? A lot of interesting news in the crypto space. It's been kind of a volatile week, as they say.
Yeah, it's definitely been a crazy week. My Friday's good.
That's good.
Yeah. Yep, Friday's good. Yep, I'm relegated to the office. This is my office background. My wife is baking some cupcakes for a graduation party we're going to tomorrow. So,
that's
it's
exciting.
good. So right after we're done recording, I'm about to scarf down like 5 of them. To taste test, right?
Yeah. Have to. Yeah.
Got to taste every flavor combination.
My wife has the Joanna Gaines cookbook, and the chocolate chip cookie recipe in that cookbook is it's killer, and I usually have to test taste 5 of them as well. So I know the drill.
That's great.
So let's get into some news. There's been a lot of interesting things happening this week. We kind of had a bit of a dip. Everything seemed to pick back up. So today, from a market arbitrage standpoint, whenever I see Bitcoin at 24K and then it just resists that, it goes back up to 26K. It's like, okay, so there's clearly enough buyers at those, what we would consider pain points. So is there going to be another black swan event, as they call it in crypto this summer, that could really trigger things to go downhill? I don't know. So far though, I think we had Terra Luna about this time.
Oh, last year, yeah.
Last year, and it really brought Bitcoin down to 14K, I believe, at the lowest.
From a
market
standpoint, I think it was 16.
Yeah, I thought it was 16, and I thought it was later in the year.
Either way, it just kept. That was the start, and then it just, and then Voyager crashed, or Voyager, everything happened
Voyager,
after Terra Luna crashed. Yeah, Celsius. Yeah. So, speaking of Voyager, they just gave us a really raw deal. Finally started getting some of that data back, and essentially they're only going to be giving people 32% of their crypto back based on the cost of last year in July. It is the rawest deal of rawest deals, and it's a dollarized cost for the 32%. I just got the email today. I couldn't believe it. It is highway robbery, and they spent all that money on the lawyers and everything, and trying to get the FTX deal closed, and then that fell through, and then no wonder Binance was like, "This stinks. Peace out." It is bad. That's really bad. Yeah.
Insane. So just thinking about the market a bit. One, I did look it up on CoinMarketCap. It didn't dip to the 15,000, 16,000s until November and December. It was that low. So, but no, I think that the Luna thing kickstarted the drop off, below 40,000 and so on. But I don't know. I wonder this. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, all the following liquidations of Celsius and Voyager and FTX were all because of Luna holdings. So
yeah. No, definitely. No, it was crazy. What a year. No, but so I wonder if the down and then the back up is I don't know. I'm curious what the response from people is to this BlackRock ETF coming out.
Yeah.
And I've seen. I don't know. I wish I would have dug into it more. I've seen people say, don't call it an ETF because it's actually a trust. And then I don't know the difference. So I couldn't tell you.
I'm a little concerned about it being BlackRock, to be frank, because this is what BlackRock does best is control markets. BlackRock seeks to control the market whenever they get into something, and that's my concern with it. They do it with real estate. They do it with all these all these things, and it's funny because you're not going to see your BlackRock real estate agent going into your residential, neighborhoods in major cities, closing those deals on those houses. Essentially, what BlackRock does, they just buy them from the banks. And that's why people don't see it like out on the street, because it's all happening on the side of the banks. There's a lot of stuff that happens without us even realizing it, between the banks. So, I mean, shoot, the federal bank the reserve banks don't release their meeting correspondences until 5 to 10 years after they've had the conversations. Yeah, so the way things go along with the bank. So BlackRock will go to your Coldwell Banker or somebody like that and say, "Hey, I see that house on the market. We'll take that, add that to our portfolio. Another shrimp on the Barbie for them, and another homeless person on the street." So, and they can control the market that way. So it's kind of scary in that respect, but that's how BlackRock operates. And
how is BlackRock different from like Vanguard? Because I feel like a lot of people talk about the two of them and like, oh, between these two companies, they own, just about every stock. But like, I don't know. I personally know Vanguard and like use them for some of my retirement accounts, because they have good, ETFs. And so I have, I'm invested in the total stock market Vanguard. So like technically Vanguard's holdings are like, probably everyone's retirement fund. Is BlackRock?
We should. So BlackRock invests in anything and everything. I think
they get their money from, like, do they host people's retirement accounts? Is it more of like a?
Yeah, I think you could I think you could if you wanted to. I mean, shoot, one of the, I forget which one it is. Stuart in the morning. Stuart Varney on Fox Business. He says the only two stock. Like BlackRock's one of the only stocks he ever buys. So, and honestly, it's not a bad strategy. So, plenty of people have their retirements in BlackRock, and whether it's stock holdings or because they do all type of investment management and financial services for the individual. Vanguard is just what we all see on our 401ks.
Okay, but I'm just trying to figure out. It's similar then.
I think
people
invest
similar, they invest in Berkshire.
We should do our due diligence though and do a proper episode, because I'm speaking really off the cuff here, and I'd like to do a more researched episode.
Well, we're trying to get Oni on, who has a lot of experience working with
that would be
I feel like he would maybe have something to add though.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
Go on.
Well, I saw an opinion on Twitter that I was reading that there might be some shady dealings with the SEC and BlackRock. Just coincidentally, the timing of it looks like it might have something to do with some sort of premonition that I guess the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust suit to allow them to have a Bitcoin spot ETF is going to fail, and the SEC is looking to hand that off to BlackRock. But Twitter opinion, so
yeah, I've heard a lot of people think that it's going to pass because it is BlackRock and they have a ton of money and they have a ton of influence, and so I don't know. I think everyone's expecting it to happen now.
Well, I mean,
I do think that is why Bitcoin bounced.
So you think that's why?
Yeah, I think it was because of BlackRock. It's Bitcoin ETF. It's possible.
Has it been kind of meddling around 25K, right? The past couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It hadn't really.
I mean, it wasn't a huge jump, but
it just went from 24 to 26.
Yeah, it didn't quite get to 24, but and to be honest, it's not even like it's not even a bearish. A bullish.
No. It wasn't a huge jump. It was just all of a sudden.
What I look for when I think about it, so the couple of stats that I like to look at on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko is, one, the total market cap. So whenever I see that total market cap number start to get closer to under $1 trillion, that's sort of a uh-oh, like something could be happening here and it's time to buy, or like, uh-oh, something's happening here and it's like get rid of whatever risky asset you might have. And I know that's not always the best result, but it's like usually like you should be buying when you see those instances happening. But the other interesting ones I like to look at is the total market dominance of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And Bitcoin's total market dominance is 46.4%, and ETH is 18.8%. And I think it's something that we should keep track of a little more closely because of how the market ebbs and flows and just what else are people interested in. And I do wonder sometimes if what are those indicators that make people go to Bitcoin or go to Ethereum vis-a-vis, you know, it's just kind of an interesting number to look at and track from time to time. So I want to keep closer track of it because it is a unique indicator from that respect as markets go.
True. And one other additional thing that kind of makes this whole story interesting, though, is that BlackRock actually applied for the ETF or the trust, whatever it is, as a Coinbase subsidiary company.
Yes.
It's not Coinbase. It's actually a separate LLC. So it is a different company, but it's a Coinbase affiliate, basically. I mean, it's Coinbase something LLC is what they applied on.
It'll probably be a joint venture then. BlackRock,
yeah, but
Coinbase,
it's very strange
Bitcoin,
given, the
ETF.
current suit with Coinbase and the SEC, and it's just like, what's even going on? Like,
well, I mean, you'd be surprised how many companies do joint ventures though to put out a product.
I'm aware it's a joint venture, but I'm saying,
yeah.
I mean, Coinbase is under a lawsuit right now. Like,
I hope
SEC, and they're applying to the SEC.
I hope that the SEC approves of this thing before they get to court, so that they can mention it in court too.
I think I heard somebody else say that, like, maybe because they're under such, like, the SEC and Gary Gensler specifically are under political scrutiny now with the way they're handling all the crypto stuff, that they're gonna give a win, to kind of get some of the pressure off their backs, and maybe that's what's gonna help the BlackRock ETF go through.
Is it going to be a part of their like iShares thing? Because I don't know if you've ever seen like the different ETFs for like countries and stuff. So it'll be like China iShares ETF. Will it be the Bitcoin iShares ETF? Because anything that says iShares on it on the ETF side is managed by BlackRock.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, just to clarify. So.
I think
who knows?
I think what the documentation filing is, I think this is where the trust ETF confusion comes in, is that they're actually filing for trust with the option to release an ETF. So it might be both in a way, but
get back to the SEC and the political thing. I do wonder if the SEC will also use it as like a doubling down, like, hey, we never said Bitcoin was a security. Everything else is, but like, see, we're cool with that.
The Bitcoin max. I love this.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Hot seat Ethereum, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, on the topic of Bitcoin maxis, I thought another thing I wanted to bring up was Michael Saylor in I don't even know what the podcast was. He was on some podcast, and the clip got shared everywhere. He said that the most humanitarian act you could do is you could put all your money into Bitcoin and then die with your keys, so that you make a, what do you call it, a pro rata distribution to the virtuous.
Will my loved ones be able to count that on their tax return?
Yeah, it needs.
Gosh, what the law? Yeah,
it needs to be
like that as a
loss.
Or something. Yeah, like. My gosh, he just says the most ridiculous things sometimes, like as we were talking about prior to recording, like this is what's wrong with the Bitcoin space. It just sometimes, like some of those individuals, they just make it a cult. Like, isn't that exactly what we're trying not to make this. It's saying stupid stuff like that. I don't know if it's just for rhetorical flourish or, I mean, he's sure not going to off himself. Like, so why should I? To be frank, you know.
Sure. I don't know that he's saying you should off yourself, but you should not have a back door so that, you know, when you die, someone can claim your keys and claim your, you know, coins.
Well, I'm going to take it to the nth degree, and that's what I think he's saying, because it's kind of like, you peasant, like, buy some Bitcoin and just jump off that tall building. Help us all out.
Oh boy, I don't know about that.
Help us all out here. It's terrible. I don't like it.
No, I don't like it either. I think it is. I think it definitely is an amount of rhetorical flourish, or whatever you want to call it. But it's almost like, you know, when you have these Bitcoin talking heads and they're going on all these podcasts and stuff, like, you can only say the same thing so many times. You kind of need to add, you know, you need some sort of spice to right. It's the old adage, right? Like any
get this podcast shirt all over.
Any publicity is good publicity sometimes.
Yeah, no, as the growing podcast says, no publicity is bad publicity.
We need some controversy.
Hey, by the way, congrats on 50 subscribers, guys. We're making it slowly but surely.
We need to take a cue from Michael Saylor. We need a little bit of controversy ourselves, maybe.
I know, yeah.
We should get as many Bitcoin maxis on here as we can.
We need some. No, no, I don't need controversy. I'd like to avoid it personally, but you know, we'll do what we need to do to I don't know, grow this blossoming. Oh, my daughter's awake. Okay, well, that's all right.
If you need to mute and jump off, you can anytime.
Oh no, we're okay.
Okay.
She's been in the car all day, so we'll be all right. Cool. But yeah, so let's. Yeah.
I don't know if we want to talk about the Prometheum story a little bit. I don't have a whole lot to add on it. I think maybe Matt knows more of what's going on. I did look into it though briefly, and it's a very strange story. It seems to me that they brought this guy on to basically say, hey, this is how you can do it right in the space. Coinbase, Binance are doing it wrong. So we need an example of somebody who's doing it right. But the guy they found doesn't really seem to be doing much of anything. And it's strange. Where do they find this guy? What's his connection? You know, what even is Prometheum? Because it doesn't seem to have, you know, any sort of value or progress or use case or people using it, you know, on the books at all. So strange.
Yeah, I was looking at the website and I was trying to find, like, where's the exchange? Where's the charts? And, like, I couldn't. It was like sign up, and then there was like a few other steps, and then it said exchange. Yeah. And so I'm like, I couldn't find it. But no, it's extremely weird. So yeah, for anybody not in the know, Prometheum is it's like a special deals broker. What's the term? There's like 4 letters.
Yeah, there. It was you're right on. I forget the thing.
Gosh.
It was special dealer broker, I want to say. SDB something else in there. But essentially what they claim to be offering is that they can offer a platform to trade these securities. But I mean, even when grilled, it's like, well, we can't offer Bitcoin currently, and no, we can't need Ethereum, but we also don't need any more clarity from the SEC. Like, it's working now as is. We just can't offer, you know, any of these trade. So what's the point?
Special purpose broker dealer is what they are, SPBD. But yeah, no, so it looks like it's so weird because they got approved for this, like by the SEC, whoever, you know. And then the CEO was at this hearing, in this congressional hearing, and he's like, you know, hey, this is, you know, we're only allowing for digital assets that are registered as securities to be traded on our things. And everyone was like, so which ones have registered as securities? How do we do that? It's a mess. It looks like, I don't know. It seems like the SEC is trying to like convolute the system, to say like, oh, what do you call that? Like it's like a catch-22 or a Kafkaesque situation, where it's like, oh, you can only list on the exchange for registered securities, and then it's like, but how do I register my security? Register as a security? Oh, well, like you can't. Like there's just no way of.
It was just a gaslight. It was a total gaslight.
Yeah,
and it was almost funny to watch. Like I almost liked him in a way because the answers were just so
very
out of there. So it was kind of brilliant. Like if it's not true that he's working with Gary Gensler, like I don't know. I mean, that was just like a brilliant piece of performance in a way. Comes out of nowhere. Like how did he even get involved with the hearing? He has a company that's basically non-existent, and it's so that whole scenario is strange. I did see people saying that they were trying to connect like ties to the CCP because I guess the CCP company, the Wayne, I don't know what the company is, but they invested in Promethium, and there's some other company that they worked with that also had CCP ties. I will go on record saying I don't really think there's much to that story. I don't really see a lot of Chinese ties to the SEC and what they're doing here. So that doesn't really make sense to me. And beyond that, actually, what's really interesting is that this company that supposedly has CCP ties that was investing in Promethium, guess who is their chief scientist on board? Vitalik.
Anthony Fauci.
Vitalik.
Oh.
So now we're saying that like Vitalik has CCP ties? I don't know. That sounds...
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. Well, now I'm kind of intrigued. So I was trying to listen a bit to the hearing. It's like 4 hours long. And there are other people on too. So it was kind of interesting because they were talking about like stablecoin regulation stuff. They had like the Circle guy there and a few other people. But they did probe the whoever that guy is, who is the CCP connection, is owns like 20% of Ethereum or of Promethium. So 20%. So it's a sizable chunk. I mean, it's obviously not a majority, but then it was kind of funny because they were like probing, like, well, why would like the Chinese guy, like, why would he want to invest in this? And they're like, oh, he believes in the mission of having, selling digital assets that are registered as securities. And it's like, in the U.S., like, it's just, I was laughing. They didn't push that, but I was thinking that. I was like, what? He believes in the mission that, oh yeah, the U.S. people, they need to, those Americans need to buy only registered security digital assets. Like, I don't know. Just thought it was
meant it only for the Cayman Islands.
I mean, hey, you can't knock the Chinese. They're about making money. So I think they,
sure. I mean,
they spread the seeds and
everything they do, they're playing the long game. They're not thinking about tomorrow. They're thinking about the next 500 years when they make a move. So can't argue with that sometimes. So I was looking at the Bitcoin.com just released a lot of information regarding the ETF. Some analysts calling it the real deal from a spot Bitcoin ETF filing. It's going to be one of those Delaware statutory trusts. There we go, state of Delaware again. Always part of the iShares thing, like I was talking about. Let's see here. Adding BlackRock Fund Advisors is Bitcoin.com. Adding that BlackRock Fund Advisors is the trustee of the trust and Coinbase Custody Trust Company as the custodian for the trust's Bitcoin holdings. So Coinbase sounds like they're going to be responsible for the holding of the Bitcoin for this trust, essentially. This is going to get interesting. I can't wait to see what the SEC
Wait, who's going to be the holder? Say that one more time.
Probably Coinbase's vault.
I think though the Coinbase is actually a separate LLC. Like it's not. It's okay. It says Coinbase in the name, but it's not actually technically connected to Coinbase. even though they have maybe an incestuous relationship.
Maybe they're just using the vault technology that Coinbase possesses to hold the Bitcoin, though. Like, that's the thing. So, and then the keys are just kept in that Delaware statutory trust, essentially. My question is, how can we track this wallet activity so we can see how much Bitcoin it is total? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I am intrigued by that as well. I think some of the things I've been looking at seem to suggest that people will be able to redeem their Bitcoin if they want, which is neat. I mean, that makes it real Bitcoin, more or less, right? It'll confirm that they have to kind of custody, the actual amount. It won't be paper Bitcoin, but I don't know. Let's see.
Well, this is going to push this is going to push for regulatory clarity. So, I mean, that's what we wanted all along. Now, Gensler has no choice but to give us some.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like, it seems like the current U.S. interests are aligned in not providing clarity and just trying to shut down the industry. But I mean, for all people want to complain about China and stuff, it's like, I mean, this is what I said, is just that, with everybody saying, oh, look at the CCP connections, like they're trying to like get influence over U.S. politics. I think what they're actually doing is they're just trying to fight the petrodollar system on like all fronts. So if crypto is convenient for them to get around that and, to be a thorn in the U.S. petrodollar side, basically, then they're pro crypto at this point. So.
What, Connor, you don't believe in one China? I'm just kidding.
I'm more of a Chinese show than probably anybody else on the podcast. But I don't know. I just don't really buy into the whole like idea that China's like our big enemy, and it's just like it's the same warmongering kind of talk that we've heard from ages from the neocons with every other country except the U.S.
So So I got how we get those spam pop-up ads on our Twitter or Facebook or whatever. So there was one that came up on my timeline and is really interesting. There's American companies that are no longer American. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And so it was like, companies like Popsicle, owned by Unilever. Unilever in the UK owns a lot of food production here in the United States. Ben and Jerry's, Unilever. Burger King, Restaurant Brands International, Canada, Trader Joe's. They're technically owned by Aldi, so that'd be Germany. American Apparel, Gildan Activewear, country, Canada. 7-Eleven, owned by 7 and I Holdings, based in Japan. So there's all of these quintessential Americana brands and companies that were founded here in the United States that are no longer owned by holding companies in the United States. And what I'm starting to recognize, and partially I can recognize this because of what I do for my day job, but is the United States just the rest of the world's ATM, essentially?
No, it really is kind of scary when you realize it, because this is kind of like the classic like populist economic right versus like left argument. But the fact that like we don't produce anything in the US anymore, like our greatest export, like we've been a net negative on exports for a long time. We import more than we export, right? And so our chief export is debt through the US dollar, the petrodollar system. That's what we export. And so what's crazy is like you look at Russia and they have an insanely like lower GDP than we do, right? But they're able to hold their own against basically all the sanctions and stuff that we've levied against them and whatnot, because they produce a lot in Russia. And so the value of,
and they don't take on debt like
and
we
that's
do.
not like, that's like what do you call it, like numberified, not equatable in GDP, so it doesn't really factor in. But their economy is very strong because they do produce, and our economy.
You want to hear some more? This is crazy. Smithfield, pork producer, WH Group, Hong Kong, Iron Man. Like Ironman for triathlons, the Ironman, Delan Wanda Group, China, Forbes, Integrated Whale Media, China, Dirt Devil, Tectronic Industries, China. It is peppered. We'll put this link to this article in the podcast notes because it is just so fascinating to me. I am just like, what the heck?
It is kind of funny to like think about how like strongly like anti-monopoly and stuff America, like the US was at one point, and now it's like, I mean, it's all these holding companies, right? And it's like, no, every brand, you've seen the charts where there's like, 10 companies own just about everything, you interact with on a daily basis. And it's like,
guess. Okay, last one. This one blew my mind. Guess who owns Citgo?
Citgo? What?
Citgo, like the gas station.
Yeah, station, the gas station.
Petróleos de Venezuela. Venezuela.
Wow.
No, that's not good. That's not good.
Hey,
Might as well let North Korea get a piece of this action. Seriously. Why, if Venezuela can go in and buy a gas station, why can't Russia and North Korea?
It's crazy. No, but to Connor's point, I think it is interesting that the U.S. is really, it's like we've got the dollar. We're the financial capital of the world. We have money because we print it, and everybody else uses our thing because it's the standard. And it's the So gosh, it's so interesting though, right? Because I like, is the way out to like get back to producing stuff? Like how can we start doing that? Balaji was tweeting about this the other day that like even every like screw that you use is like made in China. And it's
objection to that.
Sure.
As somebody that sold fasteners for a good part of my life, I can say that the industry is actually shifting to India, and from a lot of a lot of the specialty stuff is mostly Taiwan, but it's the common sizes in fasteners that are majority produced in China. So, but it depends on what you're looking for. But I would say that India is definitely taking some of that market share. So
interesting. Balaji also tweets a lot about India. So now I kind of want to like find.
Balaji doesn't really sell fasteners, so I don't know if I would trust his opinion on that.
Well, he's talked for a long time about
he
the
is
success.
Very smart.
Like the challenges to the U.S. dollar to him is the Chinese yuan and the Indian, what is it, ruble or something? So those. Ruble, he's big on both India and China. So if he doesn't recognize that,
I will say after I had to unload pallets that were import containers from India, and you can tell that those things are coming from like a third world, because sometimes like they just had to store those pallets outside because they don't have robust warehouse setups. So be unloading pallets and it's covered in plastic, and the plastic is just all muddy because it had been rainy season when they had shipped, and the lead times of this product, they're absurd. Anything that has to go on the Indian Ocean takes like a 200 to 400 day lead time just to get stateside. It's insane. So it's if you can get the product here, you can make killer margin. But if it's going to take some time, so you need to really build out that supply chain. And sometimes the companies over there, they're not the best at making what you tell them you need. So you have to have them do it over and over again. So it's a lot of trial and error until they get it 100% right. And then there's no telling if they'll just change it because they're like, oh, we found a way to do it more efficiently. And it's like, no, you're supposed to do it the way the picture was. And they're like, but this way is so much faster. It's like, no. And then try sending an email to them. They won't respond.
I don't know how much we're going to say like on the podcast, but my boss, for the piano company I used to work with, had a lot of dealings with China and other countries too, in his earlier career. But it's that way with the piano companies too, because a lot of pianos these days,
Mm-hmm.
most of the industry is now made in China. And then your high-end pianos are still manufactured in Germany. And Steinway still makes in the U.S. They make in the U.S. and also in Germany. But other than that, like the whole piano industry, which used to be totally American, has all shipped off to China. But that is the way it is there. They go there and they say, this is the way we want it built. It has to be exactly this way. You know, this is what makes the piano sound the best. And they cheap out. They won't tell you. You know, they'll change something out and they'll try to get it by you because they're just trying to shave those margins as much as they can. So.
Yeah.
I don't hate working with China though. They're decent communicators. Like they will at least give you consistent communication, unlike other countries that you're trying to help help produce product, save some money, import on the import side of it. So it's at least China communicates. Taiwan's pretty good too.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like we're off topic, but I think this is like an important discussion, though, is talking about production.
No, it is, yeah.
How important that is to the economy and why it is that you have China and you have Russia and they're getting involved in the crypto industry now because you have this proxy war, you know, about currencies that are being raised, basically. Yeah. And, you know, that plays into it a lot. So to me, when people say like, oh, look, the CCP has ties to these companies and they're trying to get influence in the US and this is what's really bad. To me, that's not what's really bad. What's bad is that we have a U.S. regime here that is very intent on keeping control of this currency system. And it's actually not in our interest as citizens. It's much more in the interest of, you know, these kind of elites or whatever you want to call them that can kind of maintain these kind of, you know, networks of power. And so in a strange way, China is kind of on our side in this, in that at least they, you know, oppose this enemy in the same way that we do. So I don't buy this that, you know, all of our politicians are bought out by the CCP and they control most of America. Like we hear nonstop about how we need to go to war with Russia, with China, with, you know, all these other countries. And if that was the case, we wouldn't be hearing this kind of, you know, warmongering rhetoric. So
it's a very intricate,
and that's not to say, of course, it's not to say that China doesn't have interests, and of course they would love to have more influence here. So I'm sure they have lobbyists. Obviously, they have lobbyists. I'm sure they contribute money to different political campaigns, but I don't buy that they really, you know, they've bought out the SEC and they're the ones really behind the strings, pulling, you know, with the way doing the puppets.
Yeah. However, I mean, to the point Balaji was making. Right. If we like, I don't know. I think the U.S. has to do something with production. Right. We have to somehow start producing again, because otherwise, if this currency war changes and the BRICS, which includes both India and China, you know, put any sanctions on the U.S.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
You know,
yeah, we have.
We can't do anything. We can't do anything by ourselves. Right. We gotta either make better strategic alliances with other, you know, countries that we can rely on, or we got to start doing some things ourselves. Because
I think that a lot of that money though needs to get away from the coasts and back into Middle America. I don't know how, but I just find that so much of that economic prosperity stays on the East Coast and the West Coast, and it doesn't get kicked back into the middle of the country where the actual
there really isn't that much
production of things
to be quite honest,
happens. No.
Sure, but no, I think, no, this is a good point. I mean, this is what's been happening, right? Brandon and I live in the Rust Belt, right? We had all this production. The production moved overseas. The new financial capital is not Detroit or Chicago. You know, it's New York, you know, and then the tech stuff in San Francisco, LA, like it, you know, the things we do are on the coast, but then we've just lost all the.
Yeah. And that's what was
don't get it twisted.
The Trump revolution in a way was really kind of just the recognition of that. So you have to give credit with no credit is due for there. Yeah. I mean, this is an important topic, like talking about the production exports of America.
No, and the people, you know, where Matt and I are from, you know, we're pretty resilient and we roll with a lot of punches. And if you have a will, there's a way to make yourself something. It's just that it has gotten leaps and bounds more difficult.
100%.
you have to work a lot of crappy jobs until you can land something that you actually want to do. And that's kind of hard to see sometimes. And we need more people getting into trades and not going to getting those secondary and tertiary degrees that don't pay for anything. Like, as you said, like, we're really good at outsourcing debt. We're really good at outsourcing it to our own citizens who are only 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, that's really what I meant to say, is not that
it's
the Rust Belt and Middle America isn't suffering more than maybe the coastlines, but just that overall, like, we're really not making ourselves wealthier. We're not, we're not benefiting ourselves with this whole system. As much as America seems to have this worldwide control, like, the American citizens aren't really benefiting from it. So that's kind of that is a reality we have to kind of deal with.
For the record, I'm not trying to say, go Rust Belt, go. I know there's a lot that happens in the Southeast where you are, Connor, with oil and everything. So not trying to discredit where credit's due. Those guys work their rears off also.
We need to produce.
Yeah. A lot of blue collar jobs that don't exist anymore. So, everywhere. And so, I don't know. It's interesting. I wonder whether there'll be a shift, what the shift will be, and how painful it'll be. So, anyway,
let's back to crypto though. Like, this is why I think China and Russia are so interested in crypto, because they're trying to they're trying to fight a war on multiple fronts. So China is trying to basically dominate the global supply chain with the Belt and Road Initiative, basically putting infrastructure and means of ports for importing and exporting in third world countries, especially Africa. China's been doing a lot in Africa from an infrastructure standpoint. And then on the crypto side, it's a way for data to be exchanged in a way that it isn't being exchanged today, or it's getting more efficient. So if they can hold both those kind of sides of the industry, from the moving of things around the world and the data that is required to keep it, like, to have some traceability to it, there's a twofold approach that I consider that they're going after, and they want to dominate that. And they know that, we've exhausted Web 2.0. So it's like, okay, we have all this infrastructure in for Belt and Road. We need a faster internet. We need a faster way to connect with all these people. And here's where this Web3 technology comes into play. Here's where a different form of currency can come into play, a way of transacting where it's a lot more seamless than doing currency exchange rates over and over again. And that's just nauseating for people. So that's where I see them wanting to be more friendly towards crypto, because they realize, if we're going to control the importing and exporting of product across the world, we need to control the transacting simultaneously.
Yeah, I think there's something there in that. I'm trying to think of who I was reading, but when they were talking about the U.S., being the financial kind of capital of the world, the global reserve currency, they were saying that, like it's not great, to be in that position, because you have to print money, you have to kind of finance everyone else's debts and all that. And so that is an interesting take. I wonder if China would look at Bitcoin in a way that they're saying, okay, we're not going to be in control of the money.
I don't think they like that.
But like, and they might not. I don't know. I'm just trying to go for the take. I was going to say, though, the opposite. I think China's already so far ahead of us technologically, but it tends to be in more like control ways, right? Like, facial recognition stuff there is wild, and they've had it for much longer than we've been able to.
And they don't export that to us; they just export the cheap stuff that we import.
Yeah,
It checks for the cheapest, but no, and then they use it for control, right? You have social credit scores, you have things like that, and so I don't know. I was watching a video recently about I think it was like a vending machine, and people had to like scan their face to use it. It was like, but if you don't have a good enough score, you can't use it, And I don't know if they'd be on board with Web3 in a way that they're like, oh, anybody can use it, the way that a lot of us are into decentralization. But I think, like Hunter said, it might be more about just kind of trying to erode the dollar, the petrodollar.
Well, and they have their own form of Blackrock in China too that runs everything in Tencent. So Tencent is China's BlackRock essentially. They own everything in China, and they even own some things in the U.S. So not a surprise to anybody. But if you want to go down that rabbit hole, look up the documentary on YouTube about Tencent. That's an interesting one. The National Basketball Association is viewable in China because of Tencent. Tencent is one of the top investors of the NBA from a broadcasting partner standpoint in China. So, I'd be interested to hear somebody who works at Tencent's opinion about the Web3 space and how it can be used for commerce in particular, because that's where the levers of financial power will be for that. I think the CCP has a little more control over Tencent, though, than the United States does over BlackRock.
It's the other way around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. I remember doing something with Tencent in school, now that I think back on it. But I think we were doing some sort of research project on WeChat, which was, I don't know I guess it still is. Mm-hmm. It's like the...
So WeChat is Tencent's top.
Okay.
It's
so it is
top
that
company,
Tencent that owns it.
essentially.
Okay. Yeah. Trying to remember that stuff. But what I was going to say is particularly what I think China, another dimension to China's whole, I guess, national philosophy, especially when it comes to tech. So it's not just that crypto is a way for them to, challenge the petrodollar system, but it also is that they want China to be the best, right? They're very nationalistic. And so they're always looking to invest in these new cutting edge technologies. That's why, like you say, they're on kind of the forefront of this, facial recognition technology and lots of technologies like that. I was listening to a podcast recently where they brought on some crypto people from China to kind of give more insight into, the China mindset there. And I guess this is what it's been. I mean, we've talked about China in the crypto space for a long time, both positive, oh, look, China's, where crypto is going to flourish because they're open to it. This was like 3 years ago. And then all of a sudden they shut everything down. And it's like, okay, China's against crypto and now they're opening up again. So, but this has been their philosophy, at least this is what they've published, is that they are very interested in blockchain technology. And they basically, the CCP or whoever it is that's kind of running things there puts out, we want to invest in blockchain. We want to, this technology to be in China, and we want to kind of have like a handle on it. So everybody needs to get involved in blockchain. That's basically what they put out to their people. But they don't like crypto. They don't like the investing thing. They don't like, just all these Ponzi markets, of course. So that's where things kind of took a step back for them. It's like, we love blockchain, but, or at least we want to know more about blockchain, but we don't know about all this stuff.
Interesting.
So now they're kind of slowly opening up again. But basically, as soon as they put out that press release that says, hey, we want to be, the blockchain people, then everything changes like that. So, I mean, it is very centralized control like that, but they do want to invest in the technology.
That would explain why they have a Polkadot team,
and that explains why
Shanghai
Vitalik is working for this CCP Chinese company, I guess, as one of their like lead scientist consultants.
Sure.
So.
No, well, the reason why I said Polkadot is because of Polkadot isn't really a crypto; it's a blockchain technology.
It's a cryptocurrency. I mean, it is.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you can invest in it on the currency side, but they've kind of moved away from it being a currency and it more so being that layer 0 protocol where stuff gets built on, as opposed to something that you just, we just throw around
Polkadot's a
just
very
for
interesting
kicks.
project. I've done some research on them in the past, and like I still don't fully understand it. But
Me neither. I've tried to understand it, but I mean, I made a lot of money on it initially, but I don't
no.
think that was the point of it. And I'm still trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, that one's cool. No, to China and the blockchain, I think as well. I don't know if they're the first country to do a CBDC, right, with the digital yuan. I don't know if they're the first, but they, I mean, they're definitely heavy into that. When did they launch that? A year or two ago. They have a CBDC, right? And they have, we bring it up anytime we talk about CBDCs, like, oh, you could have, your currency expire, because they experimented with that in China as well. And so I don't know if it's on a blockchain or
and I think they allow
CBDC,
like you could have the CBDC one, and you can also have just regular digital one too. So I think it's kind of like a coexisting system now. But I am kind of curious about that, because as much as we talk about how bad CBDCs are, I mean, obviously we don't like CBDCs. I don't think anybody does. I mean, funny like side thing, but so recently we were like approached, at least Matt and I, with this idea. I don't know how much like publicly we want to share about it, but like we need to have like this discussion about CBDCs. So let's like host something where this kind of discussion can happen. I think that would be super interesting, but I don't know if you could find anybody who would be willing to defend the pro CBDC side. Like I've tried, I've looked all over on Twitter and I can't find anybody. But the China use case, how bad is the China CBDC? Like comparatively, obviously expiring money sounds bad, but like I want to hear from like people in China that like, kind of give us the inside scoop of what's actually going on with the CBDC. Because we go, oh, China CBDC, and that's enough for everybody to be freaked out. But like, what actually is happening? That's what I want to know.
You want somebody? Oh, I think I might know somebody. Let me.
You really?
So
who has experience using it? Yeah, I think that'd be interesting.
I don't know if they have it. Well, I have to tread carefully, but I do have. I know some people. So, yeah, because of my job, I know some people. So. Some people that are currently living in Shanghai, actually. So
I wonder to what extent they'd be willing to talk about it, right? If they're like actively using
not on the podcast, but off the record, I could get some stuff.
Okay, interesting. No, because it would be interesting to hear how it is going, and I mean, I think it's integrated well into probably all their apps, WeChat and all that, but it might be convenient for the people who are using it, but. Yeah, I don't know, but that is a good point, right? I think that all the CBDC talk that's been going on in the U.S., it's everybody has been speaking against it. I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of like a good talking point, because everybody hates it. So it's like you just have to come out and be like CBDC is bad, and everybody's like, so. But I think it's good. I think obviously we don't want CBDCs. I think we need to be even heavier and be like, we don't even want Fed now. Actually, we don't even want banks giving us digital money at all. Like we want to privatize this. We want crypto. So we just need to even go more into, the whole system. But I don't know. There's goods and bads. It'd be interesting to have Ernie on, and he can talk to us about what it's like onboarding banks. Speaking of which, not to change the topic again, but go back to the deal with Promethem, but everybody was also curious about the bank that's supposedly custodian, or being a custodian, I guess, for Promethem supposed crypto, exchange, because that was kind of their way of getting around the SEC regulations, is that they were actually going to custody assets in some way that is not, is more legal, I guess, not even if we even know what legal means. But this bank kind of seemed to come out of nowhere as well, and nobody really knows much about it. So some other thread, if somebody wants to unravel that one.
Yeah, that's a weird. Good conspiracy theory episode.
I think we're going to call this the global
jumping around
crypto episode.
Trying to solve the world's problems one podcast at a time. Take one.
What else? Wrapping up. Anything else? Any other tidbits in the news? Anything?
The only thing we didn't discuss was the Tether depeg. I don't think we have a lot to add on that. It was interesting.
Well, it wasn't. It didn't depeg as much as we thought it did.
Any sort of depeg is significant. Like, obviously, the idea of a stable coin is you can redeem it for $1, and if that fails, like, that's extremely scary. I mean, we saw what happened with Luna, and that was an uncollateralized like joke of a stable coin, but it did untold damage. Like, if that happens with Tether, with USDC, there's not a lot of options out there, right? Everybody's like, oh, Tether's, you got to be wary of that. Like, diversify into what? Like, USDC that's being, sued by the SEC. Like, great.
And we found out that DAI is backed by USDC and maybe Tether as well. I don't know if they're backed by that.
Solution,
as well.
Hey, if you want to be in crypto, just hold Bitcoin, and you got to take the market swings up and down. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of other options. And I speak as somebody that's actually probably holding
Bitcoin in your bank account.
Is holding primarily stable coins at this point. So if Tether depegs, I'm toast.
Off topic. How much? I felt like I learned a lot last week from Brett in our episode about NFTs. Like, if you're watching this episode and you haven't watched that one, I was like shocked how much I learned last week. I was like, that was a good episode. I was like, it was one of those like hidden gem ones that I wasn't sure what to expect, and I came out like, wow, that was awesome.
Good episode. That's what we do. We're just gem finders here, right?
Gem finders, people who are gems.
Don't.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it was good. I think we're used to all the publicities around the degens, but so it's interesting to see someone who's in the NFT art space. Truly the art space, not I bought the Bored Ape because I like the art. Truly the art.
Honestly, if you bought the Bored Ape because you like the art, you are, no. What was it? I think there is a really funny article. I think Justin Bieber bought his Bored Ape for like six figures, and it dropped to like $40,000 or something like that. Like, how do you go to your accountant with that if you're a high profile celeb and it's like, I bought this thing for like $600,000 and now it's worth only $40,000.
It's a tax write-off. I mean,
how do you, but that's not just like a tax write-off though. That you don't get all that money back for that. Like, you only get like, I think you only get like $3,000 back.
You could net long-term capital losses, I think, are limited to 3,000. So if you had,
if you had a lot of gains, you could,
outweigh those gains.
Every year,
3,000 a year, and you can continue to roll
could also,
that over.
Right. So if you make gains, you can contribute like all of the loss against gains in any year. But if you're going to try to transfer that, to deduct against your regular income on your tax return, it's 3,000 a year. And
even though we're knowledgeable about this, we're not tax experts. Please
talk to your registered CPA or
sure.
Well,
financial
regardless
advisor,
of that, I just
CPA. We're
not financial advice.
No. Well, this would be a very boring podcast if we were a bunch of CPAs.
Or it'd be a very cool podcast.
If we were cool CPAs, it'd be a cool podcast.
Speaking of which,
you never know.
You never know. And
we're hoping to get CPA
I know some interesting
on the
CPAs
podcast here soon.
Yeah.
So
yes, yep, we got them in the
hopefully
works.
It's not a snooze fest.
Response. Yeah.
Oh, great! That'll be awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
As long as he's a cool CPA.
Yeah.
No, we love our CPAs. We need them. They help us a lot. And you help us a lot by watching this podcast, by listening to this podcast, and we appreciate it. This has kind of been a random episode, but thanks for listening to our random thoughts on the world and how crypto plays into it. We hope to keep bringing you some more interesting guests in the weeks to come, and everybody enjoy this lovely summer week in June, and we will see you all on the next episode. You all stay blessed and have a great rest of your week. Peace.